Hey guys, this is Alex for Alex's Flying Club, and welcome back to another video in the venerable DC-3. This is the first video of a multi-part series as I'm taking part in the DC-3 World Rally 2013 that is being hosted by DC-3 Virtual Airlines. And here you see the custom skin that I downloaded for this event from their website. I will be using the DC-3 that I featured in my previous video, the Norman Hancock modification to the default Microsoft DC-3 in Flight Simulator 2004. So here we are in the cockpit. We're going to be flying from Charles-De-Gaulle Airport to, and I hope I pronounced this correctly, Aix-Les Airport. Yeah, anyways. It's going to be a nice flight through central France, and we're heading southeast roughly. This is a pretty rainy day, so it's going to be an instrument flight rules flight, and we're mostly going to be directed by air traffic control to our destination. The flight path that I had mapped out went more southeast, and air traffic control directed us more on a southwest course throughout the duration of the flight. And as usual with my videos on this channel, since I am a beginner to intermediate level pilot, a virtual pilot myself, my videos are geared more toward people at the same level so that they can learn from my mistakes, and I can share the process of learning as I myself am learning to fly. So we are starting up the engines here, checking the temperatures. So I'll be going over this flight and talking about some of the mistakes that I made and some of the learning opportunities that I had during the course of the flight, and I've learned a lot actually during this one flight. And this series will hopefully have 9 more flights. The DC-3 World Rally starts today and goes until January, the end of January 2014, and it features flights from around the world, 10 flights that all the people that sign up fly together. You can fly them individually or multiplayer. Here I've chosen to fly it offline, individually. And then your results are posted. You post how long it took you to fly the route, and also the fuel that your aircraft consumed. And then looking at the average of everybody that flew, you can kind of tell how well your flight path was, how well you flew that route. So here I've taken off, and I'm using the autopilot to go on the runway heading.
Douglas 013, contact de Gaulle, departure flight 118.15. 118.15 for Douglas 013. De Gaulle departure, Douglas November, Charlie 2013, descent 1,200, climbing 7,000. Douglas November, Charlie 2013, de Gaulle departure, roger, altimeter 29082. Douglas 013, turn right, heading 290, resume on navigation, climb and maintain 7,000. Turn right, heading 290, resume on navigation, climb and maintain 7,000. Douglas 013. 118.05, landmark 5420.
So here I am following the course that air traffic control is directing me toward. And I did not use the GPS this flight at all. I did follow along and track my route by hand using the various navigational beacons along the route. I wrote down their frequencies, and as I went from waypoint to waypoint, or as I neared different waypoints, I would switch the radio frequencies to kind of track how far away I was from each waypoint, and in this manner I kind of followed along with with the path that the air traffic control was setting out for me. As I fly, I kept hitting D and B on the keyboard to make sure that my compass and altimeter were calibrated properly. And here I've clicked Shift Z to determine where the wind is coming from. You can see that at the top of the screen. It says wind 003, meaning that's the direction it's coming from. Now it's 004, and 20 is the magnitude. This was an enjoyable flight, and the most challenging part definitely came toward the end on the approach to the runway, where you'll see it was it had heavy fog. And this is something I tried. I tried diverting back from the path that air traffic control set out for me, because I thought we were kind of heading far afield from the airport. And I tried making my own course, but air traffic control did direct me back. So I wasn't sure whether they wanted me to do my own navigation or not, so I kind of tested it out, and it turns out that I should be following air traffic control's instructions, even though they set me on a course, and for about half an hour they didn't give me any more instructions. But when I diverted from it, they did tell me to go back. So the next flight in the series will be a visual flight rules flight, so I will be doing my own navigation, which should be more challenging. But this flight had plenty of challenges for me.
Expect vectors ILS, runway 18, approach, Douglas 013.
So here we are coming up on the approach pretty soon to the runway, and it was a runway that was at the end of a lake, the southern portion of a lake, and on the left and right of the lake, to the east and west, were cliffs. So you had to be very careful in your approach, and there was fog, so I was really worried about hitting those cliffs. Here I'm descending. Realized I should have probably lowered my speed before I started descent. That's one thing that I learned. Otherwise, we'll go down too fast, and air traffic control will keep telling us to expedite our descent. But if we had a lower speed to begin with, we wouldn't have traveled as far as we're descending. This descent speed, according to the charts that I have for this aircraft, is, I believe, 120 knots. 125 knots, actually.
Douglas, November, Charlie 2013, Charlie approach, roger. Current altimeter 2982, Douglas 013, turn right heading 085. Turn right heading 085, Douglas 013.
I've set the nav1 radio to the ILS frequency. It's telling, I believe I set it to nav1 at this point.
Douglas 013, you are 23 miles north, turn right, heading 140, descend and maintain 5,000, cleared ILS, runway 18, approach, maintain 5,000, until established on the localizer, contact Charles-De-Gaulle Tower on 118.3. Turn right, heading 140, descend and maintain 5,000, cleared ILS, runway 18, approach, maintain 5,000, until established.
Here I made a mistake because I turned on my own. I turned on my own, and I didn't let the I should have probably hit autopilot approach once I started seeing the needle move for nav1. Was getting a signal from the localizer, but I didn't, and I had started trying to make my own approach and get closer to the airfield, and I ended up going all the way around these cliffs and spending about probably 45 minutes trying to find the runway, always requesting directions from the air traffic control. It was a big mess, but as you can see, the runways below us were coming from the southern part now, after making a big loop, and we're going to head north, and I tried to make another approach on my own, and that didn't work, and I eventually just declared a missed approach and let air traffic control direct me again to the correct path. So yeah, that all took about probably half an hour or even more, and added to my flight time. But I'll know next time to just follow the directions of air traffic control, and when I notice that the nav1 indicators start moving when it picks up the ILS signal, I'll immediately just switch it to the ILS autopilot. There may be a better way of doing it, but that's kind of my conclusion about what I'll try next time. The flight took me about 2 hours and 36 minutes from takeoff to landing, and in the instructions, I think the approximate flight time should be about an hour and 55 minutes. So if I had made the first approach correctly, I probably would have had close to average flight time. But as it stands, I'll probably go above average, and once the averages are posted, I'll probably add a note to the end of the video indicating how I did compared to others, just for reference. So here we are coming from the north, heading south on the correct approach, and I've just switched it on to the approach autopilot, and it's following the ILS signal, and the plane is flying itself in every respect except for throttle control, which I am managing. And the tricky thing about this runway is it's a very steep descent angle at about 500, if I'm not mistaken. 500 feet a minute. If you're wondering about this airport, it's in Chambéry, France. It's called Aix-Les-Bains. It's the best pronunciation I could muster. And its airport code is LFLB. So here I'm lowering gear and flaps. Final approach, lowering my speed. Plane is still flying itself on autopilot.
Cessna 328, contact ground on 118.3. 118.3, Cessna 328. Chambéry ground, Cessna November 1432, taxi depart. Cessna November 1432, taxi to General Aviation parking and taxiway. Taxiing to General Aviation parking, evening taxiway, Cessna November 1432.
And one of the things I didn't account for was the wind, and this landing is going to be ugly and probably dangerous if this was real life, extremely dangerous. So I should have checked the wind, which is coming from the right, and it's pushing us right. It's a crosswind landing. And I totally didn't account for that, and I'm drifting, and I will be drifting, and I'll actually land a little bit off the runway. Extremely bad landing, but I'll know for next time to have my wind indicator on as I'm coming in and correct for the crosswind.
Douglas 013, contact ground on 118.3.
Yeah, I'm thinking that in real life I might have lost the landing gear on such an approach.
Douglas 013, did you copy? Going to 118.3, Douglas 013.
But in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2004, any landing you can walk away from is a good one. And I did walk away, at least my virtual character did, from this one. Here I'm going to park right next to the Cessna Caravan that landed before me. I've been having a great time during the holiday break, learning the DC-3 and learning about Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I hope to make more of these videos. They may be a little bit shorter. I might cut out some parts for future ones as school begins again for me. But I hope you guys enjoyed this, and there'll be more DC-3 Virtual Airlines World Rally 2013 flights to come. And I hope to see you again soon for another video.